show is sponsored by HiveMind CRM. It is more than just a CRM. It is a real estate and business mastermind that comes with an all-in-one CRM. You can have unlimited websites and users. You can call, text, RVM, and email all in one user interface. And you can set up custom automations for any type and multiple businesses. 65% of companies start using a CRM system within the first 5 years of business. Once implemented, the HiveMind will save you on marketing, give you more time, and make more money. One of our users had his first $100,000 month using our system in June. We want to see you automate and accelerate your business. Text us at 210-972-1842 for future meetings, and of course to get our $1 course on how to make more than 6 figures on one land deal. You can schedule your free demo today at hivemindcrm.io.
Welcome to today's episode. I am your host, Danny Martinez. Of course, I have Anthony Gaona here today as well. But we have a special guest today. We had an MLM person earlier today. We're having another MLM person today, so we're kind of covering the subject a little bit. But there's no such thing as too much information, and we always like educating and bringing that information to the masses. So if you're here today, we really are happy to hear you here today. And our special guest today is Brian Palmer. He is a 8-figure earner in the MLM space. I think his second year in business, he did like $30 million. I'm like, what the heck? Like, we're from the real estate space and it's like unheard of. So we're going to cover a lot of those things, a lot of those situations. But here's our special guest right here. We have Anthony as well. How you doing today, Brian Palmer? It is a wonderful, beautiful day. What part of the country are you from?
I'm in Tempe, Arizona. So right behind me is Arizona State University.
Awesome. So how long have you been in business? Because a lot of people think like you need to be like 40 years old and 10 years of experience to go out there and run a corporation.
Well, I mean, there's no one way, right? Like there's a million paths to the same kind of end space, and people take different roads to get there. My first like real experience in entrepreneurship, my first company I ever started was a senior home care agency in San Jose, California, and it was a franchise of a larger franchise system. And I started that business. It was the late 1990s, and for the people that are old enough, they'll know that was right around the time the .com bubbles burst and exploded. And I was in the Bay Area working in tech at the time, and lots of layoffs started happening. And so I was kind of concerned about my future and having some control over how the events unfolded in my life. And so I started looking at businesses to start. And that one on paper sounded great and all the numbers made sense. And, it actually ended up being great and it all ended up being true. The part I overlooked is that it was a huge pain operationally to manage. So sold that business after about 4 years and kind of kept in the tech world in high tech in the Bay Area. And I moved to Arizona in 2009. So I stumbled across a jewelry concept that was just really compelling. People, it was primarily like personalized jewelry for women, and they were just gravitating to it. They were buying it like crazy. So we launched a company around that called South Hill Designs. That was our first direct selling company, also called MLM, where people were getting paid to kind of represent the products and sell the products. They were doing this, every which way you could think of. And that company did get really big. We got to 33 million in revenue by our second full year. And so, it got big fast, and it created a million operational problems for us. So one of the problems was a lot of our growth was international. So ironically, like 70% of our revenue was in Canada, and then 20% was in Mexico. And then we had some in the European Union, some in the Republic, and then some in the US. So, but the problem is that all of our costs were US dollar based. So all of our infrastructure costs, our employee costs, everything was in US dollars. but our revenue was coming in from Canada and Mexico. And at that time, if you go back and look at the years, you'll see that a huge shift happened in the strength of the US dollar against international currencies. And so that really put us at a really tough spot from a cash perspective. Running any type of business, any that has inventory, what people find out very quickly is that the faster you grow, the more pressure there is on your cash flow, because you have to buy inventory in advance of that growth, but you don't get a tax relief until you actually sell it. So it really puts you in a really tough cash position already just by the nature of that business. So anyway, we ended up selling that business to a larger entity. That would have been January 2016, and we had negotiated to keep the technology components that we had built for that company, so that we could start offering them to other companies. And so that's kind of that's where our current companies were born out of. So it's Krato, which is a mobile app for the direct selling industry, and then ThinkboxHQ, which is outsourced development, where we basically have our nearshore development offices where our clients hire us to either build them projects or build them applications, or they hire our developers as their outsourced employees to us. And that business has been growing rapidly. And then to make things more complicated through that whole process, what happened is we do these work for these companies, but then the founders they started to get to know our story of the companies we've built. And so they would always want to hire us to help them build their companies. So in some cases we did that. So we partnered with an amazing entrepreneur named Kara Brooke, who is the CEO of a cosmetics company called Seint Beauty. It used to be Mascara Beauty when we launched it. And I was the president of that company for 2.5 years. That thing also grew past 30 million in its second year. Last year, it did 100 million in revenue. Wow. We've been involved in CBD companies. We've built a couple CBD companies. We've built, every different type of e-commerce company. And then we've also worked a ton outside of the industry, the MLM industry. So we have clients that, they have their own SaaS. Like one of our clients is a SaaS provider, which basically, like if you were going to open up your own inflatable rental business out of your house, like out of your garage, and market it for kids' birthday parties in your neighborhood and stuff, there'd be like your Shopify, $49 per month. It's your back office, it's your marketing tool, it's your customer management system. So we have a lot of clients like that we build and manage their SaaS applications for them. So we've had it. So it's been a wild journey. So we've gotten to see a lot, and it's definitely been interesting.
Dude, that's amazing. So just real quick about the software, I don't want to go too far off into the weeds, but so if somebody wants to run like a home-based business, they can just download the app and now they have like all their backend systematized.
Well, so in the inflatable rental business one, you mean that example?
Is it specifically around that one business, or can they have any kind of side hustle running through it?
Well, so this particular client of ours, like that's their niche. It's like they've carved out this niche that like they want to dominate. They want to dominate that particular industry. So anybody who's running an inflatable or party rental business, like this would be the software of choice. We have other clients that might build something specific like what you're saying, especially in the direct selling space. So every single mobile app that our direct selling clients have from us is completely customized in that manner. So every single one of them is kind of unique to them.
How many client requests do you get for they want to build the Uber of?
Actually, we just started on a new marketplace. It's not the Uber of, but it is a marketplace. There's a lot of marketplaces out there. It's really interesting how many, even if you just look outside of the ones we work with. I mean, one of the ones I've used just in my own personal life was Rover for like, I have to travel a lot for business. And it's like, I have a puppy who's a huge pain. And like, I can't wish that horror on any of my friends and family. So I found Rover, and you could just get a pet sitter, and it's like the Uber of, multi-day overnight pet sitting. So it's a huge trend. The kind of gig economy component. So we've seen a ton of that. We've seen a ton of software as a service. So anybody who gets into the investment world, would tell you in terms of valuations, SaaS companies have incredible valuations because they have monthly recurring revenue as their core components, or if they do, and it's a SaaS application, which is like in the kind of example we were talking about in the inflatable rental business. Like that's how you run your business on that application. So you don't just make a switch off of it. Like once you use it, you're kind of invested in it. So it's sticky. It's monthly recurring revenue. Like the multiples you get on those type of companies are massive. So you don't have to be as big to create a really large valuation. And so we're seeing also a lot of entrepreneurs trying to build their own SaaS application around a business niche that they're familiar with. So I talked to one guy who's in the car business, like the car dealership business, and he wants to build a specific app to manage like warranties within that. So you see a lot of those type of examples happening today as well, because there's a lot of value behind them, a lot of stickiness behind them if you get it right.
We know a little bit about that, don't we, Daniel?
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, we know a little bit about that. So me and Anthony are laughing about that because that's one thing we did. We're a SaaS company towards real estate investors, and we're really specific towards land real estate investors.
Yeah, so
that's what we are.
So there's a lot of like there's a lot of interesting examples out there. Like we're not affiliated with them, but it's oh my gosh, there's the name escapes me, but in the real estate space, like basically where accredited investors can go and invest in like new luxury hotels that are being built. So we're seeing a lot more like tech, like it's interesting that it doesn't even matter almost what industry you're in anymore, whether it's real estate development or anything, you see technology seeping into it now.
Yeah, I think that's cool, man. And that's kind of what the vision that we had. We figured like, how can we scale this real estate thing up? If you're working from the broker side, right? If you're an agent, you're a broker, you're a realtor, these guys want to build out these big brokerages so they can have essentially a lot of boots on the ground doing deals and contracts, and right. So you're essentially like gathering personnel. So we saw that opening in the business, and we were, like Daniel said, we niched down into land, which is kind of a strange niche that not a lot of people are beating up on. So we said, let's build something where we can make a community around this thing and get as many people as we can involved. And yeah, sure enough, we got people all over the globe helping us find these strange and rare deals.
Amazing.
Hey, so tell me a little bit about your model, man. So you guys are scaling out the software, which we're very interested in. We saw it over there in Phoenix and our Scottsdale, and we want to take a deeper dive at it. We're going to be your next customers. So how does your business work? Do you have an affiliate program with it? So how are you scaling this thing?
So there's really there's two divisions of the company. They look like two different companies, but they're really two divisions of the same company with a shared infrastructure. So Krato, which is the mobile app, which you're asking about. Mm-hmm. The model around that is we build each one of those individually for our clients, but on top of a shared platform. So it takes a lot of the costs out of it. And we basically customize that for the client. And then what we do is we try to help provide examples of how to create repeatable systems within the app. And so like in our industry and with affiliates, it's about like, how to give a tool or a set of tools to an affiliate that's easy for them to leverage to get sales or to share the word about the product. So we usually advocate, building out some sort of a 3-part or 4-part selling system, where there's components of lead generation. There's components of kind of like taking a lead and then like converting it to a first sale. So like moving it, the prospect along the process. And then also we try to close out the process with some form of like trying to convert the customer into like the highest value long-term customer, which usually equates to some sort of like recurring purchase or some sort of loyalty program or something to kind of keep that customer associated with the company. So each one of those is built customized for each company, and like it is interesting how uniquely they get deployed. So because sometimes the product it's like a soap or a shampoo that is focused on women. Another time it might be a company that's focused on teaching people how to do debt relief. Another time, it could be a healthcare supplement that's geared towards men. And every single time, like there's different aspects to what drives that business and what they want to put into the app. So that's the kind of the Krato side. That's the mobile app side. The ThinkBox side is basically the custom dev side. So when we have a client that wants to just build something from scratch and they want to own the intellectual property all on their own, then generally they're hiring kind of the ThinkBox division to build that for them.
I have something in mind. It's actually not my idea. It's a friend of mine, but I have something I want to throw at you probably at another time, because she's still like in the R&D phase and she doesn't want to blast anything out yet.
Keep it quiet.
Yeah, so I do want to get a hold of you about that and see what we might be looking at for a build out on that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's kind of dive into team building and leadership in general, because one thing we kind of touched on this in the last episode we just recorded, but what are some tips you can give for people coming in new into the space to kind of like team build and understand how the process works and how to make the most of it? Because there's a lot of money to be made in this. It's just not a lot of people to understand what the process is, and it has a bad stigma in some cases,
Yeah. With anything, entrepreneurship, I'd say a little bit of patience is warranted. A lot of times, people get discouraged because they don't get the results as fast as they want. And that's usually the first thing I share with them, is because what we're really fighting is don't get discouraged, stick with it. And then I think, the other kind of piece of coaching I usually give people is you really have to find your own voice. And then, and what I mean by that is like, what's like your own, like, methodology for sharing the opportunity or sharing the affiliate program with people. For me, I'm people have called me Mr. Soft Sell. Like, I'm not a pushy sales guy. I just can't do it. So my voice is more like, I focus more on just kind of sharing my experience and sharing kind of like my story. And then when people gravitate to it, I can follow that up. Other people are more comfortable being more direct and more out with it. And that's fine too. But I do think there's a point where you got to have a balance. And because when people are too aggressive, or you haven't talked to someone forever and you're just like sending them an unprompted sales note, well, we're all getting those all the time on the daily. And you really discredit yourself as someone who, that they're going to trust when you come at them unwarranted. So for me, I like a little bit more of the attraction marketing philosophy than the super outbound. And then along those lines, to be good at attraction marketing, you really need a balance and a story of your own beyond just the product or what you're sharing. Like at Seint Beauty, one of our most amazing affiliates wasn't great at cosmetics. They were actually great at hair. But they had all these people come and, watching them how to do different hairstyles. And then she'd be, oh, by the way, this is the amazing makeup I love to kind of finish it off. And she was killing it. But people were drawn to her because she had a unique story to share that was complementary to the product message, to the company's message. And so, it's great if you can have 2 or 3 to 1 of your own story, your own personal message of what your people are attracting to you. And then you're mixing in how this product or this thing that you're promoting fits in. I think that's a really great methodology. And then also, I always recommend make sure you're making full use of the tools that your company is providing you, because a lot of times there's amazing tools that people don't even know about. So, like as an example, we have a hair care brand that they have a sample system. So, like an affiliate can send a sample to a friend, like, "Oh, your hair looks amazing. Oh, well, you should try our new amazing hair mask product. Oh, you want me to send you a sample?" And then they go to their app, send a sample to their friend. And of course, a follow-on marketing drip, happens. Well, that's an amazing tool that the affiliate doesn't know about. Like they're missing out on. It's an easy way to introduce them to a product. Another one is we're seeing a ton of like strategic couponing now in the industry. What I mean by that is doing things like give 10, get 10 program. So you give like a discount code to your affiliate so they could give a $10 coupon on the customer's first purchase, right? So like additional kind of strategic couponing, a lot of times that's available to these affiliates and they can use that to a lot of times to sign up new affiliates and used to build their team, but they're unaware of because they haven't really got into the tools of the company. So that'd be the other thing I tell people is make sure you're leveraging the tools you have to build out your team. And then probably the last thing is if you do want to build a team, you got to make sure you're willing to kind of be there for them. So, think about how you're going to communicate with your team, how you're going to keep them in the loop, and how you're going to add value to their lives. Because the more value you add to their lives, the more you're going to draw more people into that group.
So it sounds like you got a bunch of like organic strategies, right? And then you build out these companies to 8 figures, 9 figures. If you don't have a necessarily a warm network to push this stuff out, where do you start cold? Do you start like on social? Are you running paid advertising or, promotion to other companies like B2B?
Yep, you could do that. So you have paid advertising, of course. You could do strategic social media advertising. You could do strategic partnerships with other companies that are complementary. It used to be years ago where, companies wouldn't allow people to represent more than one company, but that's not the case anymore. It actually makes a lot of sense to represent multiple companies. And then the third thing that you would see, you guys might have heard a little bit about this at the conference you were at, is building a presidential founding group. So the idea being, if you could find a handful of professionals who are excellent at marketing and building out teams, have a history of it, have a following, not a following that just like they snap their fingers, they come over. That's not really real, but like they know how to have a following. They know how to leverage it to jumpstart a team in a new company. Coming up with a strategic plan to bring on a handful of those type of leaders is probably a third leg of that stool, and is infinitely helpful.
Yeah, man, that's what we're actually looking at right now. Is for one, some looking for some presidential founders, and then also we talked to them over there at what's the name of the company over there, Hannah Shea?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Hannah Shea, to hire like a director of sales type candidate.
Yeah, because I think that's where we are right now in our business, man. So the real estate side's healthy, the software side is healthy. We're pushing on 400 subscribers like in 15 months, which is nothing to write home about, but it's pretty cool to take it from scratch, to hear where we are. Almost little to no advertising dollars. It's just like word of mouth. But yeah, I think we're getting to that stage right now. Is we're ready for some growth. We can handle the influx of new people. Teams are growing. So yeah, if somebody came in on board that had a lot of experience that can run these large scale companies, I think our model is closest to like a EXP or a Keller Williams or a Rio, where they're like these real estate MLM type companies. Those are actually brokerages, and a lot of people in our company are not licensed, but some of them are.
Oh, interesting.
So, yeah, we're looking at
some of those
scaling
companies
this
have
thing.
just been exploding in growth, haven't they?
Yeah, so that's what we've been watching. We didn't do it to model off of them. Actually, I didn't even know they had the model until we launched ours. But I think it's pretty cool to be doing what we're doing without the license. It kind of cuts out some of the red tape and cut some of the limitations where a broker makes 3 to 6%. Sometimes on some deals we're making 1,000%. So
right.
Yeah, very curious to see what happens when this thing scales up.
Yeah, for sure.
So what else can we do, man, to like leverage? I mean, I think you have just a brief overview of our model, right? And if you were going to start to promote a company like ours, right? Let's put it to the test, where we have a SaaS model based around a real estate niche. What would you do, or what do you suggest we might do to take this thing to the next level?
Well, I think, identifying the right staff and people from a director of sales component is a huge jump start. So that's a key component for sure. I think having a comprehensive, soft launch marketing strategy that encompasses some of the different pieces that we've discussed, from, paid ads to social media strategy, and then additionally, be thinking about, creating maybe a package for those leaders that you can attract, giving them some sort of additional benefit for taking a risk on you. Because really that's what they're doing. They're making a bet on you guys as a company and as like a long-term spot where if they do in fact build, they can really, benefit financially long-term. So I think creating maybe like a package for those presidential founding folks as well is big. And I think kind of putting it all together in terms of like a compelling launch is really helpful. There's a lot to be said for momentum in the business. So like the more you can kind of synchronize those things in some sort of like, even if it's like a faux event, like a soft launch event that leads up to a full launch, a number of weeks or number of months later. These are practices we've seen do really well because they help kind of create this like, perpetuation of excitement and people want to check it out and what's going on and then it also keeps the team focused so that you're synchronizing all of that, from a marketing and sales perspective into the same kind of strategy.
Yeah, I like it. Do you have anything, Daniel?
Yeah, I'm kind of waiting, but what does it take? Because a lot of people, like, there's different levels of business, and a lot of people, like, hitting $1 million is a big milestone that a lot of people are trying to attain. But like, what does it take, like, mentally, personnel wise, to like even hit like these 10 million plus numbers? Like, what was like the biggest epiphany you had when you hit 10 million in revenue?
Well, I mean, I think how to get there and how to do it is, unfortunately, it's just determination and a willingness to fail repeatedly and not give up. It's always really not the greatest message in the world, but it's the truth. And it's kind of so actually it's funny. I have a part-time position mentoring student startups at ASU. And so they like get together and they build their little startups. And this is actually a common question. And always what I tell them is that really, if you want to be successful at entrepreneurship and building, you have to fall in love with the process. And the process is painful. I like to describe it as childbirth. That it's very, very painful and very, very rewarding. And obviously it's totally different, but it's one of those things where like, and when you just listen to like seasoned entrepreneurs, they all kind of have some variant of saying the same thing, which is you have to be able to will this thing into existence. And when you say will something like that, like you don't need will when you're comfortable. Yeah. You need the will when you're in pain. And so anyway, I think falling in love with the process. So what is that process? The process can mean a lot of different things, a lot of different people that talk about lean manufacturing and all these different things. I think you could do a podcast probably on the process, a whole series on just the process. But I think the thing that that's always stuck with me is part of the process is that likely whatever like your immediate idea is, it probably is going to change. It probably needs to change or be altered. Like you're just not aware of it yet. The information hasn't been revealed to you yet. The unfolding of the market hasn't revealed itself yet. And so a lot of times what we make the mistake of as entrepreneurs is falling in love with that original idea and exactly the way it is and not allowing it to change and morph over time. It's kind of like another old saying is like a fun one I've always liked is I'd rather give a B plan to a group of A players than give a A plan to a group of B players. And the reason why I'd rather give a B plan to a group of A players is because the A players will fix it and they'll turn it into an A plan.
That's a good one, dude.
A plan to a group of B players, they'll screw it up and they'll screw up the plan and they won't execute it right. And so again, it's just another way of saying the same thing, which is you got to be willing to constantly look into your idea, constantly look at the way you're doing business, constantly be revisiting it, thinking about how you can alter, change it. And that's part of the process. So that was a long answer.
Dude, that's incredible, man. I've never heard that before.
I'm really glad you mentioned that because a lot of people think like it's a will. Like there's difference between entrepreneurs and everybody else. Entrepreneurs, they have a stronger will than everybody else, and they're an unstoppable force in their own. And it's a good and a bad thing, but that's what it takes in most cases. And I'm really glad you mentioned that because everybody wants the silver bullet. Everyone wants the silver bullet. What's the silver bullet? How do I get there? It's like really strong will and stubbornness. and
Yeah.
sleepless nights.
But I said all the negative stuff. I should say some of the good stuff. So like, I forget who it was. One of the big time guys, like book writer stuff. He always used to say, the great thing about entrepreneurship is you only have to be right once.
Yeah. I love that.
Right? We can screw it up 1,000 times, but you only have to be right once. So you just keep at it. You're going to probably be right once. So like that to me was always one of my favorites. And then at the end of the day, there is a payoff at the end. Like all this security and, job, it's all false. Like if you just go back to the beginning of our discussion, what got me into entrepreneurship were massive layoffs in tech. I was scared for my job. And I realized right then, that this idea of, because I'm a little bit of an older generation. My father worked for the same company for 35 years. Like that idea that you got a job and you worked it for 30, 35 years, you had the stability and you had this great life, that got washed away from me very young. And I think younger people today, like you guys, like see that more inherently. That like we like that was my kind of real kind of like aha, like, oh wow. So the other thing about entrepreneurship is it seems scarier, it seems riskier, but I would actually contend that it's the less risky path you could take for your professional life. For me, like I control my risk. I control how I diversify my business. I control a lot of that. So yeah, do I have risk? Yeah, but I at least have control and insight into that risk and the decisions that go to mitigating that risk versus, being an employee. So like the power of that in this, and then just the pure joy and satisfaction of seeing something you built do what you thought it could do. I don't know anything better than that. I mean, that's literally one of the greatest things I think a person can experience. So there's so many amazing rewards, I think, that keeps you coming back and being willing to will something,
And I feel that right there. I feel like
Danny
and myself.
I'm really going to mention that too, because it's
Go for it. Go.
I cut out. Go ahead, Anthony.
No, you were good. You were just on like some.
No, it's one of those things where like, yeah, I'm having a connection issue, man. I might just drop out, but it's one of those things where you there's a huge benefit, and you don't even know how huge benefit it is till you're there, and it's just one of those things you gotta really understand. So I always ask this question, Brian, but what is a question? I mean, what is a quote that is yours or somebody else's that you resonate with? I know you mentioned one. I want to get another one out of you because that one was so good.
Okay, I'll give you another one. It'll give you a view to my personality. If you want to make God laugh, tell him your plan.
Wow. Okay. That was a good one. Okay. And that was a good one. Okay. Is there any books you recommend as far, because we have a lot of readers
for sure
that like educating themselves.
For sure. I'll tell you one. I read 100 books in business books in 1 year. I don't know why I did that. I got in my head to do that. So I have plenty of recommendations for you. But I would say Blue Ocean Strategy is something that any entrepreneur should read. Definitely changed my thought process and understanding a lot. So I think that's a brilliant book. I like books on creativity. So the book Originals I find to be very compelling. I liked it a lot. If you like biographies, there's a good Elon Musk one I like. The Pixar creator has an amazing one. Shoe Dog, which is a story of Nike, another really great book. If you're into like the stories, how the companies get built, I really like those. But in terms of like, if I could only make one recommendation, I would say Blue Ocean Strategy. That book probably changed my thought process more so than any other.
So I'm really glad you mentioned that, because like I've heard that a few times, and I've been looking for a next book. Me and Anthony, we just finished a book that we read somewhat cohesively, so that's probably the next book we got to read. I've heard that one a few times, so I was just like, okay, we gotta make it happen. I really appreciate your time. Any last questions?
No, nothing from me. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, I was just going to ask real quick, man. Have you released a book yet? Do you have any content that you push out like that at that scale?
No. Funny story is I did attempt to write a book, and it was so bad I had to throw it in the trash. I reread it. I was like, oh my God, it's garbage. It was just garbage. So yes, I wrote a book, but I didn't really let anyone other than this editor to help me write it, read it, because it was just terrible. it was a preachy mess. But I'm gonna try to at some point again.
All right, that was going to be my next question, with some tips on the book. We're writing a book right now. I think we're about 3/4 of the way done. So I was going to ask you for like a launch strategy, but I think I'll skip that one.
Oh yeah, you got to skip. I Led Zeppelin mine into the ground.
All right, Brian. Yeah, man. I'm going to stay in contact, man. Like I said, we want to talk about Krato. I don't know if you had time to deep dive on that real quick, but yeah, I will definitely be in touch. We want to take a look at that.
The show is sponsored by The List Guys. Do you need more leads in your local or virtual market? 1 in 10 small businesses don't invest in any kind of marketing. The List Guys have over 35 plus list types to choose from, and you can mix and match any list or criteria. We also use the skip trace list and provide up to 7 numbers and email addresses. Every list you purchase will be scrubbed against previous purchases. The List Guys are here to save you time. Contact the List Guys today at www.1listguys.com. That's www.1listguys.com.
Okay, well, hey, thanks for having me. This has been great.
Awesome, brother. Thank you. See you soon.
Take care, guys.